We're just about to get our first pictures from inside the courtroom with normal, average human lawyers, and we'd like to— Ladies and gentlemen, we've just lost the picture, but what we've seen speaks for itself. The courtroom has apparently been taken over, conquered, if you will, by a master race of robot lawyers. It's difficult to tell from this vantage point whether they will arbitrate the captive Earthmen or merely sue them into submission. But one thing is for certain, there is no stopping them. The autonomous attorneys will soon be here. And I, for one, welcome our new robot lawyer overlords, and I'd like to remind them that as a trusted YouTube personality, I can be helpful in rounding up other human lawyers to toil in their underground legal data centers. Robots are coming to replace all of the lawyers. Wait, why are you clapping? Last week, humanity took one step closer to embracing our robot overlords when tech wonder kid Joshua Browder offered a $1 million bounty to any lawyer willing to let his AI chatbot argue a case before the Supreme Court. On January 8th, Browder tweeted, quote, "Do not pay will pay any lawyer or person $1 million with an upcoming case in front of the United States Supreme Court to wear AirPods and let our robot lawyer argue the case by repeating exactly what it says. We are making this serious offer contingent on us coming to a formal agreement and all rules being followed. Please contact me if interested." Browder was undeterred by the horde of actual lawyers pointing out that this would violate the High Court's ironclad ban on laptops, cameras, video recorders, cell phones, tablets, smartwatches, or any electronic device of any kind in the chamber.
Mr. McGill, you are warned to leave your electronics outside.
And in a follow-up tweet, he scoffed, "Oh yes, how could I forget about the AirPod security checkpoint?" Making clear that the 26-year-old CEO had never set foot inside the Supreme Court, which screens all entrants and is staffed by deputies who would gladly tackle anyone stupid enough to violate the ban on transmitting audio of the ongoing argument. Doesn't exactly bode well when the CEO of an AI law company doesn't know the first thing about the law. Yeah, I am not particularly worried about AI replacing lawyers anytime soon. So, how did we get here? Well, it seems that the teenage Joshua Browder was a bad driver, a very bad driver. And even worse than his driving, young Joshua could not for the life of him park his car. Then he made the shocking discovery that, quote, "the government issues tickets to make money, not necessarily to punish people." So Browder did what any normal kid would do. He wrote a chatbot to contest his parking tickets online. And in no time, he was lending the tool out to his friends who were apparently also unable to decipher street signs or maneuver their cars within 18 inches of the curb. And in 2015, when he was an 18-year-old student at Stanford University, Browder launched the company Do Not Pay from his dorm room, reportedly writing the code in under 2 weeks, working between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. And in no time, Silicon Valley was calling with generous offers to buy it. Later, he spent time as a fellow in a program founded by venture capitalist and Silicon Valley visionary Peter Thiel, which pays students to drop out of college and spend 2 years building their companies on the theory that, quote, "some ideas can't wait." Records show that at the time, Thiel had $1,000 in outstanding parking tickets and a court date coming up soon. And while the bot was originally programmed to contest parking tickets in the UK and New York, Browder's company soon expanded to include a host of services using text bots and artificial intelligence. If you want to cancel your gym membership or apply for a fishing license or schedule an appointment at the DMV, there's a bot for that. Maybe you want to fly with your emotional support animal or close a bank account. Maybe you want to marry an inmate in the county jail. Maybe you're a Disney superfan and you get your kicks snitching on the company when someone on Etsy makes a Donald Duck tote bag. Hey man, whatever you're into, what could possibly go wrong? But as you might surmise, there are some huge problems with this. For a monthly subscription of about $12, you too could use Browder's bots to report a pothole to your local government, automatically cancel a subscription at the end of your free trial, or appeal your property tax bill, tasks which you really shouldn't do yourself without the supervision of a parent or guardian. But if all this company was offering was a computer program which demands to speak to the manager, basically a Karen bot, then we probably wouldn't be talking about it here today. But Do Not Pay hosts a bunch of other applications, some of which at least skirt the line of practicing law without a license. Because advising someone on how to file a Freedom of Information Act request or even a complaint to the Securities and Exchange Commission is probably okay, but instructing someone on how to file for divorce, execute a power of attorney, or craft a cease and desist letter is a much dicier proposition. And this was clearly apparent to the lawyers who drafted the site's terms of service, which remind customers over several pages that Do Not Pay is not a law firm, but rather a, quote, platform for legal information and self-help. But that message is rather undercut by Browder's own publicity, in which he says that he hopes to be
like the general counsel for the consumer,
and promises that the site will, quote, make the $200 billion legal profession free for consumers. I am not quaking in my shorts right now. Now, the website LegalZoom, which offers users to customize legal documents to suit their specific needs, had a similar problem and engaged in protracted litigation with the state of North Carolina to ensure that it did not run afoul of the state's ban on the unauthorized practice of law. But its CEO wasn't making videos in which he promised that the service would, quote, find a loophole, insert that loophole into a legal letter, and then send that off to the right place, or even upload it to websites and have a robot do all the clicking on your behalf. It's a bit difficult to maintain the fiction that you're not practicing law when your site bills itself as the world's first robot lawyer. But does this story sound familiar to anyone else? Stanford University, precocious genius, beloved by Silicon Valley, aiming to revolutionize an industry they never actually worked in despite experts in the field telling them in no uncertain terms that their projects would not work? Yes, he seems to be the latest technocrat who has no idea what he's talking about, trying to propose technological solutions to non-technological problems. Browder says that he, quote, couldn't afford to pay these tickets as a young person, so I became a legal expert about all the reasons why people could get out of parking tickets. Really? It's also of note that Joshua Browder's father, Bill Browder, is a wildly successful hedge fund manager who championed the Global Magnitsky Act to sanction Russian authorities after they arrested accountant Sergei Magnitsky and left him to die in prison without medical care for exposing state corruption. But rich nerd who didn't feel like paying his parking fines and dummied up a bot to contest them is a lot less compelling origin story than broke student ingeniously beats the system, so here we are. But with crypto being hammered and AI becoming the new Web3, let's count all the ways that this actually won't work. To begin with, Browder seems a little fuzzy on what lawyers do all day.
Lawyers are charging hundreds of dollars an hour for copying and pasting a few documents.
Presumably, the late Sergei Magnitsky would probably disagree. Ditto for the ones who fight to keep Josh's dad one step ahead of Russian extradition attempts. But if your definition of legal expertise is staring at the parking code and parsing the semantics of street signs, then it's not surprising that you might think a computer could easily accomplish that with a few lines of code. And if you're willing to believe that a bot is just as good at drafting legal documents as someone who went through years of formal education and then learned their craft under experienced practitioners, then why wouldn't you believe that artificial intelligence is capable of arguing at the highest court in the land? But honestly, that's sort of par for the course among the Silicon Valley elite. For example, Elon Musk was recently asked on the witness stand why he believed that the contract might not apply to him, and he said, quote, I have some familiarity with the legal system. I mean, if you're in enough lawsuits, you pick up a few things along the way. And what Elon keeps showing us time and time again is even if you are a really smart person who built a great company, you don't know what you don't know, and here that seems to be a lot. Browder's plan involves using OpenAI's ChatGPT-3 to feed dialogue to, quote, any lawyer or person with an upcoming case in front of the United States Supreme Court. Interesting that he thinks lawyer and person are mutually exclusive, although he wants to replace us with Rosie from the Jetsons, so yeah, I guess that probably tracks. Actual lawyers, the humankind, will tell you that the Supreme Court is one of the most hidebound institutions on earth. The justices had to be dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century during COVID when they finally permitted simultaneous transmission of oral arguments. They plan to allow cameras in the courtroom in the year of never, so anyone attempting to play ventriloquist dummy via earpiece is likely to find himself in the custody of the bailiff in pretty short order. Moreover, any attorney who committed to turn the control of the case over to a robot would leave that person open to a charge of malpractice, which they would definitely lose, while the person paying the lawyer to do it might be charged with the unauthorized practice of law. And that's probably true for anyone paying for a pro se litigant to let the machine argue on their behalf as well. But even if this weren't illegal, it's worth noting that Browder's plan relies on a brand new off-the-rack technology that is largely untested in the real world. And even so, Browder's proofs of concept are decidedly mixed. Earlier this month, he posted a video to Twitter claiming to show a chatbot using a deep fake of his voice to successfully negotiate with a representative from Wells Fargo to secure a refund of wire fees. The video has since been removed for violating Twitter's terms of service, and the bank claims that it was deceptively edited anyway. But even taken at face value, Vice reports that the recording contained long pauses where the bank employee waited patiently for the chat program to formulate a response. And that's definitely not going to fly in court.
Just a sec. Objection.
Plus, it's pretty noticeable if your plan is to insert this bot into an actual hearing by stealth, the technology is probably not there yet. Although lawyers are increasingly relying on artificial intelligence to help them sort through a mountain of documents to find the ones that are relevant to their cases. A real-world application that Browder seems wholly uninterested in, since it doesn't involve blowing up an entire industry. AI is definitely helping with the practice of law, just not without the humans. They seem to be pretty necessary. And Browder's other big success involved letting the chatbot engage in a very stilted negotiation with a Comcast agent, or possibly one of Comcast's own chatbots, to reduce an engineer's bill. How did it do this? Well, it used a mix of neural networks, hidden Markov models, and lying. Quote, the AI just exaggerated the internet outages similar to how a customer would. He then acknowledged that the tool was, quote, not perfect yet, and promised to, quote, sterilize outputs before launch. This touches on another problem with this genius plan to unleash this program on the Supreme Court. The bots lie. In fact, ChatGPT's propensity to make up things that sound true, releasing a stream of, quote, fluent BS, got it temporarily banned from message boards on the coding site Stack Overflow. And the line between fluent BS and sanctionable lack of candor before a tribunal is not one that you want to find yourself on the wrong side of. Browder himself acknowledged this limitation in a conversation with Politico, but assured reporters that his company had gone to great lengths to ensure that the bot will be as honest as George Washington in open court. And if you can't trust a guy who programs deepfakes to impersonate himself online, I mean, who can't you trust? And in response to the potential illegality, Browder told Gizmodo that he might rely on accommodations for people who are deaf or hard of hearing to smuggle the earpiece into a hearing. But no fear, according to Politico, Browder's company will soon test the bot out in real court somewhere. He claims to have discovered 2 jurisdictions where his harebrained scheme is, quote, not outright illegal, although he's not saying where, lest the courts in question find out and decide that actually it is illegal after all. Though I'm not sure that I would rely on his understanding of what is legal and illegal in parsing the local rules of different courts. But in one hearing, the defendant will head into court with a recording device and earbuds, transmitting the hearing live and repeating whatever the AI whispers into his ear. The other is a traffic court being conducted via Zoom, which shouldn't be that difficult, except that Browder is toying with the idea of having the AI clone the defendant's voice and speak the words itself.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
Although he admits that, quote, that could get us into a lot of trouble. And as Browder sees it, his trouble road testing the technology is all part of a plot by the legal profession to preserve its stranglehold on the marketplace and hold off the march of progress. Quote, there's all these gatekeepers, there's laws, there's governments to work around. Yeah, a profession that requires you to pass the bar in every single legal jurisdiction in the United States. I can't imagine that the lawyers would want to keep a monopoly on all of this profession. And if you were wondering what services Do Not Pay actually offers to people right now, well, thankfully, paralegal extraordinaire Catherine Tewson has already gone through a lot of the services that the website offers. She has a patience that I simply don't have, signed up for an account and went through what they offer. And Do Not Pay seems to offer a whole bunch of services that really seem like the practice of law, including being able to sue anyone in small claims court and divorce settlement agreements. Catherine went through the process of creating a demand letter connected to a small claims court, filled in the information, and found that basically it's just a service that puts in the information that you provide into a form. It doesn't seem to offer anything related to AI at the moment, and there's no option to use the real-time AI lawyer services either. The end result is a demand letter that is basically worse than nothing, that is sort of nonsense, doesn't really further the ball, and it really demonstrates why you want a lawyer to draft these things. The service doesn't seem to do any actual legal analysis and seems to encourage you to file a claim in small claims court that is actually too big to file in small claims court. And it's not entirely clear, but although this claims to be an AI company, there seems to be a lot of human intervention in all of these different results, which is not great when you're doing things that may actually qualify as the practice of law, and, you know, the humans might have some liability for that offense. But look, this might be hard to understand for people that don't actually practice law, but practicing law is more than just arranging magic words in the right order while trying to sound human. Lawyers get paid to exercise their judgment. You hire a lawyer because you know that he or she understands divorce law better than you do. They can draft a business partnership that accomplishes what you want. They've been around the courthouse long enough that you're better off taking the plea agreement. And unlike Joshua Browder, they can actually read the room. And if something goes wrong and they give you bad advice, then you can sue your lawyer for malpractice. So maybe you'll be fine if you represent yourself in traffic court or even if you let a chatbot whisper into your ear during a traffic hearing. But when the cost of getting it wrong is high, like it might be if you're in the Supreme Court, the human lawyer is worth the money. And a very tiny number of lawyers will spend their entire careers honing their craft to be good enough to argue before the Supreme Court. And they're not about to be replaced by a chatbot that can barely negotiate with a customer service agent. So if someone tells you that they've got a robot that can feed you lines in court or, God forbid, clone your voice and speak for you, maybe tell them to go away and come back when they've mastered parallel parking. And hello, this is Devin from the future, and I'm happy to report we got him, boys! Because Joshua Browder is reporting that after being threatened by state prosecutors for the unlawful practice of law and violating all kinds of court restrictions, he's going to back down and he's not moving forward with having an AI actually whisper into someone's ear in even traffic court. And they're actually removing a lot of the services that Do Not Pay currently offers that look like legal practice. So from the public backlash and the criticism, it looks like they are doing the right thing, not offering legal services that could have a dramatically bad effect on people, and focusing on consumer-related things rather than the practice of law. So although the lawyers weren't exactly holding their breath on this, they can breathe a tiny sigh of relief that at least people are not going to be harmed by the negligent practice of law at the helm of an AI chatbot. But there's still a lot out there on the internet that can hurt you, which is where today's sponsor NordVPN comes in. Because you know that incognito mode isn't actually incognito, right? With NordVPN's no logs policy, your internet service provider doesn't get to snoop on what you're searching, and neither does NordVPN. And Nord is more than just a VPN, it comes with a whole suite of threat protection tools. For example, if you follow some of your favorite creators on social media, you might have heard stories of a channel getting hacked, basically a creator losing access after a successful attack or password is leaked. Alex's Corner, one of our Nebula friends, recently got their channel stolen and turned into a repository for cryptocurrency scam. NordVPN's threat protection includes specific features to warn you about phishing links, as well as features like a blocker for malicious ads and dark web monitoring to alert you if your passwords have been leaked. And of course, NordVPN is a great VPN. With Nord, you can surf the web anonymously and your location stays safe. It allows me to set my location all over the world, which lets me access different versions of my favorite websites. And when I'm out of the country and try to connect to Gmail or a bunch of other things that I'm logged into, all those accounts would normally freak out and tell me that I'm being hacked. So now I just reroute my connection to the US and my Gmail, and everything else works perfectly like it always does. So if you'd like to give NordVPN a try, click on the link that's on screen right now or down in the description to get an additional 1 month free with a huge discount. And it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So click on the link below to get 1 month free with a huge discount with a free 30-day money-back guarantee. And after that, click on this box over here for more LegalEagle, or I'll see you in court.